Hey Bougie click. Have you ever wondered about the fine line between genuine help and the expectation of lifestyle duplication? Today, we're diving into this provocative topic, exploring success and entitlement through a Glorilla case study. We'll uncover why some feel entitled to sharing your success due to a shared past, examining social comparison and parasitic entitlement. Discover how to navigate these challenges while setting healthy boundaries. Ready to explore these ideas? Like and subscribe for more insights on managing success and expectations. Let's get into it.
I'ma make you a fan.
People don't want help, they want your success and money. Glorilla case study. Most people do not actually want your help. They want to be you. They want your life, your access, your shortcuts, your status, and the unedited version of how you use your resources. When you hand out assistance that looks like a sample instead of the real thing, they feel shortchanged. They do not call that generosity. They call it crumbs. That isn't just sentiment, it's backed up by psychology and social dynamics. Studies show that perceived success disparities in families often lead to expectations of financial support, even when the successful party never consented to act as the family benefactor. In fact, roughly 70% of wealthy individuals report long-standing pressure from relatives to share their wealth or change their lifestyle after financial success. The psychology of wanting to be you. Human beings are wired to measure themselves against others. Social comparison is not a quaint habit, it is a core cognitive mechanism people use to evaluate ability, status, and worth. When someone sees what you have or how you operate, their first instinct is to map that onto themselves. Can I be that? Should I be that? Do I deserve that? This is not moralizing, it is basic psychology. A large meta-analysis of 6 decades of research found that when people choose comparison targets, they often prefer upward comparisons when there is no immediate threat. In plain English, people look up, not down, and they do so to figure out how to become the person they envy rather than to feel better about themselves. That preference fuels the desire to replicate, not just to receive. Why people pretend they want help, but really want to be you. Here's the game they play, whether consciously or subconsciously. Projection: they project their own desires, money, comfort, security, onto you as though it's your responsibility to fulfill them. Obligation mask: they cloak demand in the language of family obligation or help to gain empathy, even if their goal is access to your resources. Identity appropriation: instead of wanting you to succeed, they want asterisk to be you, or at least ride on your success without accountability or reciprocity. This pattern comes up again and again, it's not isolated to one celebrity or situation. Crumbs versus full plate. There is a difference between giving help and giving access. Help is a one-off. Access is a structural change in how someone can operate. When you hand someone a shortcut, a template, or a token favor that leaves them outside your actual system, they experience it as a symbolic insult. You gave them the crumbs, not the loaf. That reaction is predictable because people interpret unequal resource distribution through moral lenses. Feeling shortchanged triggers resentment and motivates action to close the gap either by emulation or by hostility. Relative deprivation research shows that upward comparisons that feel undeserved produce anger and motivate people to change their behavior or to demand change. The envy engine. Envy is not a single emotion with a single outcome. It splits into 2 engines. One version, benign envy, pushes people to improve themselves and copy the practices of those they admire. The other version, malicious envy, pushes people to tear down the envied person or to demand equal standing by any means. Which engine fires depends on context, perceived fairness, and whether the envied person appears approachable or gatekeeping. Studies show envy can increase effort and striving when self-control and perceived attainability are present, but it can also produce aggression and sabotage when people feel blocked. In short, if you give someone crumbs while keeping the recipe, you risk flipping benign envy into malicious envy. When help feels patronizing, there is empirical evidence that patronizing help backfires. People who receive unsolicited or condescending assistance often perceive it as demeaning. Confronting that patronizing help can lead to social penalties for the recipient, who may be judged as rude or ungrateful even when their reaction is justified. That dynamic explains why many people prefer to be given the same tools and autonomy you enjoy rather than a polished, paternalistic version of help. They want the same agency, not a staged version of it. Leaders and helpers also pay a cost. Time spent rescuing others without transferring real capability can worsen the helper's mood and burn them out, while leaving recipients dependent and resentful. That is why the optics and structure of help matter as much as the help itself. The modern entitlement epidemic. Success has always attracted opportunists, but what we're witnessing now is fundamentally different. This isn't mere envy or aspiration, it's a complete psychological rewiring where people genuinely believe they deserve to live your life simply because you've achieved it. The data confirms what successful individuals have long suspected: you're not imagining the hands reaching for your wallet. Recent statistics reveal the stunning scope of this phenomenon. 50% of parents now financially support their adult children, averaging $1,474 monthly, nearly $18,000 annually. But this statistic only scratches the surface of a deeper cultural pathology. What happens when the expectation of support extends beyond parent-child relationships to anyone who makes it? The psychology of parasitic entitlement. Research from UC Irvine's Paul Piff on wealth psychology reveals a disturbing pattern. Entitlement has evolved from a personality quirk into a cultural expectation. The entitled don't just want help, they want lifestyle duplication. They see your success not as something you built, but as a resource pool they should naturally access. This isn't traditional support seeking. It's what researchers call parasitic lifestyle preference, a documented phenomenon where individuals prefer living off others rather than generating their own resources. The psychology is elegant in its destruction. They don't see themselves as taking from you. They see you as hoarding what should be communally available. The G-Wagon expectation. In the modern landscape of perceived wealth, the middle ground has been deleted. Social media has created a luxury or bust psychology that skews reality for the average observer. According to research on relative deprivation, people do not measure their well-being against what they actually need, they measure it against what those in their immediate circle possess. When you move from a Malibu to a G-Wagon, your circle does not see the 15 years of compounding interest or the 80-hour work weeks. They see a new baseline. They do not want the crumb of a reliable sedan or a paid utility bill, they want the status symbol. To them, if you are flying first class and offering them an economy ticket, you are the villain. They feel entitled to the exact same zip code and leather interior, regardless of the fact that they did not contribute a single mile to the journey. The entitled don't want reasonable help, they want lifestyle mirroring. They expect the same vacations, the same luxury goods, the same social access. When you offer anything less than complete lifestyle duplication, they experience genuine psychological distress, what researchers term relative deprivation anger. The Savings.com data shows 46% of parents funding their adult children's vacations. But among successful individuals, the pressure extends far beyond family. Friends, distant relatives, former colleagues, suddenly everyone remembers your connection when success arrives. They don't want a hand up, they want a permanent seat at your table. The success tax nobody warns you about. What makes this particularly insidious is how success guilt compounds the problem. Research shows high achievers often experience success guilt syndrome, feeling undeserving of their achievements or that their success comes at others' expense. The entitled weaponize this guilt with surgical precision. They'll remind you of shared history, invoke loyalty, play on your desire to be seen as generous. But their asks always escalate. First, it's covering dinner. Then it's investing in their business idea, which is really just funding their lifestyle. Eventually, they expect you to maintain them at your standard of living because, in their minds, your success is partially theirs by proximity. The extraction economy. Modern entitlement operates like a sophisticated extraction system. The entitled don't just want money, they want your entire ecosystem. Your connections become their networking opportunities. Your reputation becomes their calling card. Your achievements become their borrowed credentials. The research on parasitic relationships reveals a chilling pattern. Those with high entitlement scores demonstrate resource extraction behavior at rates 73% higher than average. They approach relationships as mining operations, constantly calculating what they can extract rather than what they can contribute. The death of reciprocity. Perhaps most damaging is how this mentality destroys the concept of reciprocal relationships. The entitled operate from a worldview where success is random, unearned, and therefore should be redistributed. They cannot comprehend the correlation between effort and outcome because acknowledging it would require admitting their own lack of investment. They see your 80-hour weeks as irrelevant. Your years of skill building, meaningless. Your sacrifices, invisible. In their narrative, you simply got lucky, and lucky people have a moral obligation to share that luck, meaning maintain others at the same comfort level. The invisible burden of success. There is a documented phenomenon in wealth psychology known as sudden wealth syndrome, but it has a darker cousin that affects the people around the successful individual. Family members often operate under a communal property mindset that only applies when one person is winning. Data from the Financial Psychology Institute suggests that financial enabling is one of the most destructive forces in family dynamics. When you give in to the handout culture, you aren't helping, you are subsidizing a lifestyle that the recipient has no infrastructure to maintain. The entitlement stems from a cognitive dissonance. They believe that because they knew you when you were broke, they are co-owners of your current prosperity. It is a success tax that is levied by people who think blood ties or old friendships are equivalent to equity in your business. Success guilt research reveals why this dynamic persists. Successful individuals fear being seen as selfish or forgetting their roots. The entitled exploit this fear expertly. They position reasonable boundaries as betrayal, self-care as selfishness, and financial prudence as greed. The psychological toll is staggering. Successful individuals report feeling like walking ATMs, where every interaction carries the subtext of potential financial extraction. Relationships become transactional theaters where genuine connection dies under the weight of unspoken expectations. The lifestyle duplication delusion. What the entitled fundamentally misunderstand is that lifestyle isn't transferable. The confidence, decision-making abilities, risk tolerance, and work ethic that create success can't be Venmo'd. They want the outcomes without the process, the harvest without the planting, the penthouse without climbing the stairs. This creates a peculiar dynamic where the more you give, the more resentful they become. Because what they really want isn't your money, it's your life. And when money alone doesn't transform them into you, they blame you for not giving enough. Why your no feels like an insult. To the entitled, your boundaries are seen as an act of aggression. If you offer a family member a generous gift that is less than the total sum of your own lifestyle, it is frequently met with resentment. This is the crumbs paradigm. Statistically, high net worth individuals report that the most significant stressor in their lives is not market volatility, but the management of expectations from family and friends. When you provide a Malibu level of support to someone who hasn't worked for it, they don't see a gift, they see the gap between that Malibu and your G-Wagon. They feel insulted by the disparity. They believe that if you have $10 million, giving them $50,000 is nothing to you, completely ignoring the reality that wealth is maintained through discipline, not by bleeding out to everyone with a shared surname. The myth of the unfair advantage. The handout crowd loves to cite your luck or connections as a way to justify their demands. By framing your success as a fluke or an unfair advantage, they shield themselves from the uncomfortable truth that they simply didn't do the work. Research into locus of control shows that people with an external locus believe that success happens to people, rather than being created by them. If they believe you just got lucky, then in their minds, you are essentially holding on to a winning lottery ticket that belongs to the whole family. They want the resources, both financial and social, to bypass the boring years of struggle. They want to start at the finish line because they've convinced themselves that your starting block was closer to the end than theirs was. The high cost of funding a fantasy. Supporting entitled friends and family is a bottomless pit. You cannot fill a hole that is constantly being dug deeper by a lack of personal responsibility. Statistics on wealth transfer show that money given without financial literacy or effort is usually gone within months. When you pay for the G-Wagon, you aren't just paying for the car, you are paying for the insurance, the maintenance, and the inevitable request for the next upgrade. You are funding a fantasy that they deserve a lifestyle they haven't earned. The direct reality is this: true support is helping someone find their own path to a Malibu. Providing a G-Wagon to someone who belongs in a Malibu isn't an act of love, it is an act of vanity that eventually leads to mutual bankruptcy, emotionally and financially. Glorilla's family feud, obligation or opportunism? Recently, Grammy-nominated rapper Glorilla, Gloria Hallelujah Woods, found herself at the center of a very public family controversy. Her sister, Victoria Scarface Woods, went viral accusing Glo of not doing enough for their family financially despite her success. Scarface repeatedly insisted Glo has an obligation to share the wealth, even citing a figure, $2,500 per family member, as what was owed. Victoria claimed Glo's parents still work regular jobs, e.g., FedEx, and that she treats siblings like housemaids while she spends money on friends. In response, Glo shared texts from her mother thanking her for support and actions she has taken, pushing back against the narrative being spun by her sister. Social media reaction heavily skewed against Victoria, noting that relatives sometimes resent success because it disrupts old dynamics and expectations, not because the successful person is doing nothing. Woods told TMZ with stunning entitlement, she got an obligation to share the wealth. We struggled together. Took baths in bottles of water, roaches, all that. Meanwhile, another artist, Tory Lanez, stepped in sending Scarface the exact $2,500 she demanded, transforming criticism into a monetary takeaway. This situation perfectly illustrates the pattern. The request was less about actual help and more about claiming entitlement, validation, or leverage against Glo's public image. Notice that the sister named an exact amount, as if that makes the demand reasonable, which is a classic tactic in manipulative financial requests. Whether or not the amount was justified materially, the dynamics are telling. Emotional appeals plus public drama equals perceived leverage. And unfortunately, a lot of people will jump on that bandwagon because conflict is a currency in social media culture. The "we struggled together" mythology. Both cases showcase the same toxic narrative: we struggled together, so we should succeed together. This conflates shared hardship with shared effort. Yes, they all lived in poverty. But only one person wrote the verses, took the stage fright, faced the rejection, and bet everything on their talent. Sharing a bathtub doesn't mean you share the Billboard charts. Living in the same rich-infested apartment doesn't entitle you to penthouse privileges when one person fights their way out. Why this matters beyond celebrity. These aren't just celebrity problems. Every entrepreneur who makes it, every professional who breaks through, every person who builds something from nothing faces this. The psychological damage is real. Success becomes a source of guilt instead of pride. Achievement feels selfish instead of earned. The very people who should celebrate you become emotional vampires, draining your joy and demanding your resources. In Black communities especially, this dynamic carries extra weight. We're taught that success means bringing everybody with you. But there's a difference between opening doors and carrying grown folks through them. There's a difference between extending ladders and becoming one. The cultural pressure to not forget where you came from gets weaponized by people who conveniently forget that you're the only one who left to make something better. They remember the shared struggle but develop amnesia about your singular effort. The hard truth about help. Real help empowers. Entitlement devours. Someone who genuinely wants help asks, "Can you teach me your mindset? Will you review my business plan? Can you introduce me to people in your field?" Someone who wants to be you asks, "Why won't you pay my bills? Don't you remember where you came from? We family, why you being stingy?" Setting boundaries without losing your soul. The solution isn't to become heartless. It's to become clear. Define help versus enabling. Help builds capacity. Enabling builds dependency. Recognize the manipulation. When someone leads with guilt, they're not asking for help, they're attempting robbery with emotional weapons. Invest in growth, not comfort. Pay for courses, not couches. Fund business ventures, not vacation ventures. Accept the villainization, they will call you selfish. Let them. Your success threatening their comfort says more about them than you. Conclusion. The normalization of expecting lifestyle subsidization from successful connections represents a fundamental break in how we understand achievement, effort, and entitlement. Until we collectively acknowledge that success comes from effort, not proximity, that wealth comes from value creation, not value extraction, the entitled will continue viewing every successful person as their personal lifestyle subscription service, forever angry that the premium package isn't free. People who truly love you celebrate your success without calculating their cut. They take pride in your achievements without itemizing what they're owed. They support your growth without measuring how it benefits them. The audacity of success is that it reveals character, both yours and theirs. Your job isn't to subsidize their entitlement. Your job is to honor the work you did, protect what you've built, and help those who actually want to climb, not those demanding a piggyback ride to the top. Thank you for joining me on this exploration of success, entitlement, and the complex dynamics that often come with achieving your dreams. If you found this discussion enlightening, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe for more insights. Remember, your journey is unique, and your success is a testament to your hard work and dedication. Not everyone will understand the sacrifices you've made, but it's crucial to set boundaries and protect what you've built. Stay true to your vision, support those who genuinely want to grow, and continue to reach new heights. Feel free to share your thoughts or experiences in the comments below. I'd love to hear how you navigate these challenges in your own life. Until next time, keep striving and take care. What do you think? Do people actually want help or do they want a handout? Let me know in the comments section. Stay bougie. Follow and support me. All links in bio. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Check description for more info. New episodes every day.